Here we go. Here we go. What is going on? What is going on, everyone? Thank you so much for tuning into another episode of Beyond the Hustle. I am your host, your MC, Daniel Tadamy, and joined with me, as always, is my co-host, Mr. Serial Entrepreneur himself, Paul Rene Jr. What is going on, Paul? What is going on? We got a dope show set up for you all today.
It is I.
Yes,
Paul Rene, your tax guy, here with my co-host, the maestro, Daniel Tadamy, doing his thing. What's up, Dan? How you been, bro?
What is up? What's going on, man? Doing all right. You had a good weekend, man?
Man, I had a beautiful weekend.
Good time?
Beautiful weekend. Just chilling with the kids, doing daddy duty and stuff like that, man. And also, yesterday was a phenomenal day, too. A change for the country, you know. Yeah. USA, right? I'm proud to be an American. This is our country, man. This is our country. So, you know, whoever they put in place, no matter what your political affiliation is, you got to support it. Yeah. You have to support the country, man, because this is where we're at. We could be anywhere on the planet, but seems like this is where everybody wants to be. Why is that, Daniel? Why you think everybody wants to come to America, man? What's going
on? I think in light of all the issues and the problems that we have here in this country, just like every other country, it's still one of the best places to be. And you hear that echoed from a lot of people, even when they leave the country to go live other places, if they were once American and they move abroad or things of that nature, and they come back for visit or they come back to move, you know, they're like, being away is gone. Being away is great, and they love where they're at. Yet there's no place in this country like here. And in the small, you know, international travels that I've done, and I've been fortunate to have, and to see the things I've seen, you know, there is no place like America. And I think the cliche American dream, you know, it's that cliche phrase is there for a reason, you know, because you can get up and achieve what you want. In other countries, especially if you're not from America and or you're not from that country and you try to like build from the ground up, it's difficult to do. You know, you can't just start something and go. In other countries, you don't have that type of freedom to do, you know, especially if you're not from there. But we complain about it. You know, I've said my gripes about America. Yet, you know, I'll have long stays. I don't know if I would like live abroad. I probably would for like a long period of time. I'll probably end up coming back to America though.
Yeah, I've lived abroad. There's some places around the world that I enjoyed being and living in, but nothing like America, man. I always find myself wanting to come back home, you know, to the American way of living. And you know, America is one of that melting pot of different, you know, nationalities, man. That's what makes it so great. You got people, we're all a nation of immigrants, man. You know, and I think just the argument is, you know, feel free to come to America, but just do it right. You know, like my parents did. You know, immigrants from Haiti came in, got their citizenship, did things the right way, and, you know, ended up thriving. You know, if you have that drive, if you have that determination, America is the place to be. You know, not saying you won't enjoy yourself in other countries, but I think that was the one of the messages that I think Trump was putting out there was he wants America to be a strong nation again. A very, very strong nation again. And when you think about a strong nation, what does that require, man? In my opinion, the nucleus of a strong nation is a strong family. And I've been keeping track of what's been going on out there in social media, watching you know, some podcasts out there, seeing some clips out there. Now that we are in the whole, you know, podcast you know, arena or whatnot. It, you know, makes me look to see what's out there and what's popping in the podcast world. And there's a lot of tension out there. There's a war between men and women. And it seems like, you know, it's just an indication of what's really going on in society. There's
Yeah.
like no union. There's no there's hardly family anymore, right? I know we talked about it last time about holidays getting together, right? And it's not the same like it used to when grandmama was around, right?
Mm.
Um, it's because there's a destruction of the family, and I think, and another point or topic that has been coming to my table, knowing that it's tax season, and Trump made a mention about like, hey, if you're paying child support, right? You're not, you get to claim the kids on your taxes. The month, if you're a father
Yo,
paying child support, you get to claim the kids on the taxes, and the mothers don't get to claim the kids on the taxes anymore. Oh my God, my phone was ringing off the hook.
so
Hey,
that's
hey,
a
is that
hundred
law still
percent.
in place?
So that's in effect like now, like this tax season. That's
No,
already
it's
in
not
effect.
yet. Not yet. Like tax
Oh,
season hasn't
okay.
opened
Because I
up
heard
yet.
about that. Yeah, they
I don't
wanted to
know.
make sure they could claim them, Paul. They wanted to
He
claim them.
might sneak me an email and say, "Hey, Paul, this is what we got to do from now on," right? But
Ah.
not as of yet. But that's the calls that I was getting and questions that I was getting asked, man, on the frequent was
Yeah.
like, "Hey, has that law been in effect?" Why did he even say something like that though? What was his motive behind that? What's your input on that,
So
Dan?
so for number one, for number one, I think that Trump. I think that Trump understands, you know, what. And ladies, please, I'm not coming at the ladies with this, right?
Uh oh.
But it is going to be it's guy focused, right? I believe that Trump understands that men, as a whole, right? We're not talking about race. I'm talking about just men as a whole in general make this nation what it is, right? Not that women are important and adding to or contributing to society, but he understands that. And for the longest, child support has been killing a lot of the family, and it's been killing a lot of spending if we're talking about economics too as well, right? Because when it comes to being a breadwinner in the family, the majority of times it is the men. Majority of the men out earn women. Like that's just I'm not being funny about it, but that's just the nature of the beast. And a lot of times, child support can be weaponized, right? And so
Yeah.
the way to balance it, right, is just that. And I think that a lot of women will kind of think twice before they want to weaponize that child support because of that reason, So I like that idea though. I'm all for it. I agree with it.
Well, and I think what he's trying to do is strengthen the family, right? If you take that card off the table, along with, and I'm not saying women don't have a right or anything like that. Women are a big part of the family.
Right.
But he also, wanted to leave it up to the states for abortion, right? Which is giving me the indication that he's looking at women to make better decisions on how they're moving forward, with their sexuality.
Yeah.
Okay. Because when we're talking about other countries and living abroad, man, in different countries, there isn't that type of support, right? It's shamed upon for a woman to be having children and not being in a marriage. It's shamed upon for divorce.
Mm.
A lot of these countries that are thriving have a strong family unit, and that's what he's trying to get at. He's trying to cut out the encouragement of breaking up the family, because if you are in a marriage or in a union with someone and you're like, you know what, I'm done with you. I'm not going to stay with you through this whole ride. Where's the family? Because now there's a separation. The man's not in the household.
Yeah.
All right. So I think what he is trying to, take away the incentives of people separating from the family and creating a strong family, because with a strong family, there's a strong nation.
So
Okay.
I have a question with
The
you on
reason
that.
why I think, and not to cut you, the reason why I think the
Go ahead.
reason the country is the way it is right now is because of weak men. All right.
Yeah.
Men are supposed to be the leaders and are supposed to be controlled in the direction, the family goes, the country goes. But we have, as men, allowed these laws to come in play to where it creates separation. And I'm all about union. I'm all about unity. Okay, let's not get to the point where we're creating dysfunctional households. Because with
Yeah.
a dysfunctional household, when you have a whole bunch of dysfunctional households, you don't have a strong country. And I think that's what he's aiming to do is to get this, not probably not for our generations, but the next generation, so our children's children can understand, like, hey, let me make a smart decision about who I lay in bed with. If anything, let me wait until I get married or
Yeah.
so before I lay in bed. I mean, that's the hope that I have as a father for my daughters. I wouldn't want them to be out
No.
there and trying to experiencing and building up on the trauma of being with different men or whatnot. And I know everyone has their own opinions, but it's just something that I think you know is required, especially for a man. A man wants to be with a woman, that he has a good, strong bond with, right?
Yeah.
That's a powerful man. You've heard that saying, hey, behind every great man, there's a great woman, right?
Yeah.
Man, that
Yeah.
woman dealt with him with all his bull, his BS, right? And she stuck it in, man. She was tough enough. Like our great grandmas and grandmas before us, man. They went through hell dealing with the men that they were with, but they were happy to have a man in the house
Hmm.
because at those times there wasn't those incentives to break apart the family. You get what I'm saying? There wasn't
Yeah.
those Section 8s. There wasn't the food stamps. There wasn't, the, hey, you're going to get child support if you break the family apart, right? So they made intelligent decisions on who they created a family with, and they try to stick through it. That's why you heard of marriages being 30, 40 years until death, right? Because they stuck through it. You trying to tell me this man didn't do any BS during that time? No, but she understood, like, hey, um, boys will be boys, right? Men will be men, and I'm happy to
Yeah.
have one.
And I think that goes. I think Oksana says, "I agree. Strong family units are what make countries strong." That is true.
It
And she
is.
said, "People need to take marriage and children more seriously." Period. And I agree with that. They do. And at the same time, I was gonna ask you a question about
Sure.
you know child support being a deterrent or like incentivizing people to remain together. Do you think that
Mm.
that's enough of an incentive?
Well, it's not just the child support. It's everything that come along with it. Excuse me. Uh, I think child support is necessary if a man's not playing a role in being a part of a child's life,
Right.
right? If you're not playing a role, if you're not supporting the upbringing of the child, if you're not there for the child, because there's a lot of guys that, again, weak men, right? That's the downfall of the country,
Yeah.
is weak men. There's a lot of weak men out there that don't want to take responsibility for what they created, and what they gave to the woman, right? Because let's be frank, right? The seed comes from the man, okay, and it's passed down to the woman to raise.
Mm-hmm.
But that man needs to be in the house not just to raise, but to train that son to be a man, right? A woman can't really, in my, and people might disagree, but a woman can't raise a man to be a man. It
Nah,
takes a
she
man
can't.
to be a man. No,
Right.
it takes a man to be a man. So most of the guys that you see in prisons are guys who didn't have a father figure in the house. You know, um,
Mm-hmm.
they took on the traits of the woman who deals with emotions and feelings. And so when they felt tested or they felt like they wanted to grab that and steal it, or they
Mm-hmm.
felt like this guy's enraging me and testing me, instead of acting like a man and dealing with it in an intellectual way, they respond to violence or murder or in a situation to where it gets them locked up. And then what else is the purpose of a traditional man? Is to provide. So a lot of people are locked up because they didn't see that man in the
Mm-hmm.
household that provides. So how are they supposed to provide but to do these illegal activities, right? That they see other people, who were raised without men in the household, thrive out there on the streets. Um, Lucky is that man that has men in his life to teach him how to be a real man. And I got to give it up to my father. I have to give it up to my uncles because I was
Yeah.
able to be raised around positive male role models, positive figures in my life to show me what a man is supposed to do. It's a training that's required. Okay, it's not just raised. Raised, anybody can be raised. You make sure they fed, make sure they got clothes on their back, some
Yeah.
sneakers, whatever, and then put them to bed. That's not teaching anything. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, raising without a male figure could have men hate other men because they didn't have a man there to show them that love, right? And how that love is supposed to be, and it's shown through discipline, it's shown through correction, right? And so now, when you have that discipline at a young age, that way you can respect that authority figure,
Mm-hmm.
you're more than likely to respect, the law, do things in the right way, provide for your family the right way. Um, but when you don't have it, all hell breaks loose. So I think that's the goal here, is to redirect the country in the right way for men to stand up,
I
basically, and
think
be men.
I think the I think a lot of it now, because just from my experience, my anecdotal experience, I'm seeing, the older I get, I'm seeing proof of, my men of my peer group, older, a little older and a little younger, stepping up to be fathers, whether they're with the mother or not. Like they're stepping up to be fathers. And I hate to use this word, but I'm gonna use it because I don't think it should be used, right? I don't think it should be the case.
Go ahead, use it.
But like,
Use that
what do
word,
you
bro.
what um and Oksana says, you're talking good, Paul. She says, exactly, it's the men who aren't handling responsibility. But if you have a father that's willing and active in the kids' lives, work out a plan together outside of the courts don't care about your family like you do, and they don't. It's
Right.
all dollars and cents. But like, do you think there's a way to incentivize fathers to be around? And I asked that question because I I really did I really did believe that the weak men were making it difficult for men to be men, or like this country was making it difficult for men to be men, especially with that toxic masculinity word, with that word which I hate so much.
I
And
don't
I don't
even
even
know what that
believe in that.
is.
I don't,
What
me
is
neither.
what is
I have
that?
no idea what
How
toxic
is there such
masculinity
thing
is.
as toxic femininity?
God no. Don't say that, man.
I don't get it.
You can't.
I don't get it.
But I hate that word, and the reason I hate it so much is because we were getting to a place, and I don't feel like we're there anymore, right? And I do believe Trump has a great has a lot to do with it, but I don't think we're there anymore. But we were getting into a space where like you couldn't talk and be a man, you couldn't say certain things, you couldn't express in certain ways, right? Even when it came
Yeah.
to your kids, you couldn't do certain things with your kids because it's like, oh my gosh, you're being that's too much, that's too much. It's just like, no, right? Because when you're raising a child, I didn't get to see this video, Paul. I was going to send it to you before we had this conversation.
Okay.
But there was a study that went out that said that you know um, kids who are raised with their mother and the father, they have just as equal, close results to kids who are raised with just a father, right?
Mm-hmm.
And with when they just have just mom, right, single mom household, they don't have those results. And majority of people, and you said it earlier, majority of people that are the men that are in prison are from single mother households, right?
Yeah.
And so people in the comments is going crazy. Of course, it triggered a bunch of people, right? But the study is the study, right? I didn't do the study, right? And the lady who was talking about it, she was just reporting on it, right? She was doing the TED talk or something like that. I forgot what she was doing, but she was presenting. I think she was doing a TED talk. Actually, she was doing a TED talk,
She was
and
stating the obvious, basically.
yeah, she was stating the facts. And people in the comments was like, "Oh, uh, um, mothers do this and fathers do that or whatever." And people in the comments was like, "Look, she's not saying that the facts are the stats are the stats. They're not saying that men don't produce horrible adults because they do. We're just talking about what the rule to the exceptions are, right? And I think that that's what people get lost in. What's the rule and then what's the exceptions? But I digress to go back to my point, right? We were getting to a space where being a man was just like so like frowned upon. But what I do like and what I did like to see was that even from the younger generation, I think this generation is like Gen Z or something like that, whatever, or X, whatever this generation is,
I'm out of the
they,
loop.
yeah, I'm out of it too. They weren't backing down. Like they were still standing up for those, to be a man. They were still pursuing that manhood. And that's what made Kevin Samuels, in my opinion, you know, pop the way that he did, because men still had a desire to be men. Like, yo, I don't want to turn this. I'm not trying to shy behind this. You still had simps out there that were willing to do that. But men as a whole was like, yo, we want a place to be men too. And I don't think that that's a bad thing. So I did enjoy seeing that though. But to my question that I have for you, like, what do you think, is a way to incentivize men? Okay, if you're not going to make it work with this woman, still be around, right? Is there a way that we can still get men to be fathers even when they're not with the mom?
Yes, and so what we have to understand is, again, and again, this is why the abortion thing was such a big issue. Is that, first off, if there's a lot of weak men out there, right? The hope, and I pray for my daughters that they listen to dad's words, is not to get involved with weak men. Okay? Because what is a traditional man? Like, you could be a male and not be a man. All right?
Right.
That's the whole point, right? You could be a female and not be a woman. Because what defines a man and what defines a woman is duty. Okay? They have that duty. Uh, uh, and that brings me to like my question, like, what are traditional men, like the whole essence of a man, is that even still wanted nowadays from women? Do they want a traditional man? Because when you think about it, there's a lot of chaos going on in the family and the destruction in the family, and there's a lot of males that aren't stepping up to their duty. What is their duty as a traditional man, right?
Right.
That's the question. What would you say
I
is the duty as a traditional man?
I think, well, first off, okay, do women want a traditional man nowadays? I'm gonna say yes and no. Well, I'm gonna say in theory yes. In theory, yes, they do, because of what traditional man does, right? So I think in theory, women do want a traditional man because it's a traditional man. He opens doors, he pulls out chairs, he brings home flowers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's gonna provide for the family. He's gonna do all
Okay.
these. So he has a he's pursuing a relationship with Christ, right? If you're from the Western side, right? Religious. He's religious or whatever. So like, yes, right? In theory, they want a traditional man. In practice, they don't, because traditional man wants traditional woman. Now,
Correct.
what is
Correct.
traditional woman? What's the responsibility of a traditional woman? Because the only way
I don't
traditional
want to
man
touch the woman.
works,
I don't want to touch the woman. I don't want to touch the woman. I'm
you,
laying today's episode. We want to lay the responsibility on the men right now. All right,
So
that's what it's all about, for real.
well,
Okay,
I only say that in answering your question. That's why I said
yeah,
in theory they do want traditional man, in practice they don't, because what traditional man does in practice, you know, to maintain or to hold down traditional man, I mean, you can't be this progressive woman. It doesn't work.
a traditional man expects standards from a woman,
That's what I'm
right?
saying. That's what I'm saying. To
And that's
hold down a traditional man, it's
yeah,
so you're not.
that's the
That's why I
problem.
say
A traditional man, right? His
right,
duties are to provide and protect, right? Because let's
right.
backpedal, right?
That's what he does.
Right. Let's backpedal, right? What's
Uh,
what's important here? What are we focusing on as far as like on the macro level, right? A strong family unit, a strong country, all right? Let's say that's not going on right now at this time. So what do? We have to focus on the children, okay? We want
right,
the children not to make the mistakes that we have been doing. And
right,
how are we supposed to get the best possible outcome? You ask, hey, is there any incentives for the man to stay around the children, right? Because that's the best possible outcome that you can get from a child. And in order to do that, right, there has to be unity between the man and the woman,
even if
regardless
they're
of
not
whether they,
together.
even if they're not together, it has to
Right,
be unity, right? It
right,
has to be to where you're not using that child as a pawn to get at the man and keep him
yeah,
away and separated, and it has to be that motivation and desire for that man to see his seeds grow and become better than him, right? So he's going to have to
right.
do everything that's possible. He's going to want to provide. He's going to want to protect, and protect is not just physically; it's mentally. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
making sure that his brain isn't absorbed with the chaos and the indoctrination that's going on around.
Right,
That's trying to make that child think that everyone's the same, and everyone isn't the same. Men, like I said, there's males and there's men. Every man isn't the same. Every woman isn't the same. We're not the same on this planet. Okay, um, but the whole essence is, you want to give that best possible outcome for that child, and if all the children were getting the best possible outcomes, then you're going to get a best possible outcome for the country. So the whole point of these topics, like, hey, we're gonna give the taxes to the man for paying child support, right, and not let the mother do it. That these are taking away the incentives that the government had given, the mothers to break
yeah,
apart from the family, right? The abortions to break, to be out there and not create that bond from a man. So now you're out there and experiencing multiple men. So now when you reach that traditional man, you don't even know how to deal with that traditional man, right?
I know.
Because there's been so many, uh, that you've been through,
Mm-hmm.
that now all you have on you is trauma, right? Which isn't going to create that bond. You're not going to know
No,
how to react. All right. So the best possible outcome for a child is marriage. I'm not saying the marriage has to be by the government. Okay, there could be different ways of that marriage. Before
see, now
governments
you're
were
getting into
established,
something.
marriage.
Now you're getting into something. Now you're getting into
Right.
something that's left field with unconventional.
Well, it
And
is conventional.
traditional man doesn't do unconventional, because if you're gonna
Well,
do marriage without the courts or the traditional way, Paul, that's not a traditional man.
if you take it back to before the courts were established, marriage didn't need the courts.
No, it didn't.
Marriage is a spiritual thing. It's a
Right,
bond between a man and a woman. It's, hey, my family and your family is combining.
right.
You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Um, the courts just make it a legal document to where now the courts have control of the marriage. I'm not saying it's wrong or anything, but I'm
Right,
just
right.
saying it's not, you know, required in order for a marriage to occur in the eyes of God. It doesn't require the courts. It's supposed to be, if you're religious, it's supposed to be in whatever religion that you are a part of. That unity
Right.
between man and woman, you create one, right? A bond. All right. So that marriage, and let's just say, just for argument's sake, it is the courts. Let's look at the courts, right? What's going on with marriage nowadays? Marriage is declining.
Mm-hmm.
Divorce rates increasing, right? And I think after 2022, I think there's been a decline in divorce, right?
After
But there's also
2022,
been, yeah, the statistics say since 2022 there's been a decline in divorces.
I believe that too.
But
I believe that.
but it's true. But there's
Yeah.
a reason why there's been a decline in divorces. It's because there's a decline in marriages. People are
So
not getting married like they used to.
so people aren't getting married like they used to, right? Just from, and this is without me looking up any stats, and I'm about to look up a couple because I used to know a few of them, at least in the
Yeah,
black communities. But
yeah. Fact check me, man. Fact check me real quick. I'm
no,
telling you, yeah. People.
I believe that is going that is going down, and
Well, let's think about it.
I
Let's
think
think
it's
about
two
it.
reasons.
Let's think about it. Look at the prisons, right? It's all filled with guys and people from single family households. There's a
Yeah,
majority of single mothers out there.
yeah,
The millions. I could bring up stats on that too. Let's look up some stats if anything.
dude.
There's
Because
nothing but
even within our peer group and later, right? Just within the millennials, you know, a lot of millennials saw, there were two parents in our home. Now whether they stayed, it was one or another. But I can imagine after our generation, the amount of children who saw two parents in their household. So when you don't see it, right? It's not to say that you don't want it, but you're less inclined to pursue it. That's why exposure to certain things is important. Now you'll get people who say, "Oh, even if I wasn't exposed to it, I'm still going to pursue it." That's the exception versus the rule, right? But the rule
yeah.
would be, in order to pursue, you have to first see it, right? Whether it's in your imagination or whatever, what have you. But let's just stick to the point. So, but what I can say, so I think it's two reasons why people aren't pursuing marriage the way that they used to. For number one, it's just not economically, feasible, right?
What do you mean?
It's
What do you mean? Marriage is not economically feasible?
right. It's expensive to have a family, right? Especially now, having a family is expensive, and a lot of people have bought up the housing market. You'll see people staving off marriage until they're able to buy a house, until they're able to get X, Y, Z. I can't afford a ring. I mean, certain things that you'll hear people say, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just spoke to an individual the other day, and I was like, "Hey, not that I'm pushing them to do it. I was like, hey, you guys think I get married? Oh well, I gotta afford a ring. I gotta buy a ring. Oh, okay, I can't afford a ring right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that was the reason that was told to me. Now, I'm not gonna push it. I'm not gonna tell anybody, run out there and get married. No, God, no. You make the decision on your own. And then number two, I just think, bro, man, I don't think people are like willing to do what it takes to even unify, right? I don't Men and women, like, I'm gonna put it on both. Men and women both aren't willing, or they're not showing a willingness to come together. Like, relating between the men and women right now is like extremely crazy, right?
It is. You see it all
And
over.
I'm not gonna say it's real, right? Because outside of social media, it's a lot worse. It's worse. Okay, social media is a lot worse than what it is in real time. Now, I'm not saying real time is not that bad, because in real time it is pretty sticky. Yeah, social media magnifies it times 1,000, right?
Yeah.
So, but the men I talk to, the women I've spoken to, they both say it's bad. Yet, I see the men around me still coupling up, Paul. I see them still coupling up. I see them still willing to do what it takes to get married. That's why I say social media is in the way of a lot of it. You know,
It
it's
is
extremely in
media
the
in
way of a lot
general.
of it.
The
Yeah.
propaganda, the propaganda,
Yes.
and the
Yes.
expectations that the media and society is creating
Right.
is what gets in the way. Just like you mentioned, the ring. Where does this ring come from? Is it necessary for a marriage? No, it's not. It's not necessary to have a ring to get married. It's not necessary for this big wedding. The economical factors that are going on should encourage people to get married, should encourage people to unite and get together because, as inflation increase, it's much more easier to get through life if you have two sources of income. Look,
That's true.
the average man makes about $45,000 a year. How is that supposed to provide for a family of 2, 3 people? I mean, back in grandma's days and grandpa's days, they had 10 kids,
Yeah.
7 kids,
Right.
right? That's not how it's going down now. Another thing that's decreasing is birth rate decreasing. For all these
Yes.
abortions and everything and all
Yes.
that, they're not having babies. It's like,
No,
oh,
people
you
aren't
got
having
you got two
babies.
kids? Oh my God, you got 2 kids?
Yeah.
Oh no, 3 kids? Oh wow, it's like a freaking, you know, what's going on? This is not normal. This
Right.
is for you to have so many kids when the
That's a
whole
lot of
essence of
kids.
a
3 kids.
yeah, I mean, the whole essence of a man is supposed to be to be
Oh
able to
God.
multiply and
Yeah.
pass on his lineage. Look at here. Look, majority of the wealthiest people, the princes, the sultans, the kings, and every have multiple kids. Have so many kids to pass on their lineage, and this is what society is trying to trick people into thinking that that's not cool. It's not good to have all these kids. That's why everything gets expensive and everything. But you're only relying on one income to take care of everything. That's not really possible in today's times.
It's not
So
possible, Paul, but that's
you
that's what I'm saying in traditional, right? Because traditionally the man did go out and work and do all those things, and the mother or the wife stayed home and she took care of the kids, took care of the house. That's why I said earlier when you first asked, you know, do women want a traditional man? I said, in theory they do, but not in practice.
Well, if they did, they wouldn't be dealing with men who could not provide and who could not protect. And that's what seems to be happening right now is women are choosing the wrong type of so if
And
they
that
wanted a
goes to show
traditional
you
man
that that goes to show
if they
you that
wanted a traditional man, the
uh
men in their family have to stand up and let them know this is a traditional man,
no,
right? The
but
men are
see,
not doing that.
no, because they're not getting that. I was
What do you
talking
mean?
to so there uh look at the comments. So Johan says that's why they don't want to get married. Abortion isn't included in the birthright. What do you mean by that, Johans? What does that
I'd
mean?
say,
Abortion isn't yeah, what does that mean? Abortion isn't included in the birthright? Saying that you don't get a birthright if you have an abortion? I don't
but
understand that.
what I'm
But
saying is what I'm saying is though is a traditional man, right,
right.
would go to would normally present himself to the woman's family and let them know, like, look, I'm going to be responsible for your daughter, right, or your niece, or if the father isn't there, or the brother. Hey, this is going to be my woman, and he would take the responsibility to protect and to
Oh,
provide for that woman. That woman has the duty to be able to take care of kids. Now, mind you, we're dealing in a society where, again, the average income, can't provide for a lot of kids. So it does take both sources of income to make things work.
right.
But I still do leave that on that man because men are capable of making 6 figures if they put their heart into it and desire to it, and they can have that woman doing the traditional role of nesting, raising the children, teaching the children, because the woman is supposed to be the first teacher in that child's life,
Mm,
right?
right.
While she's pregnant, The man's supposed to be out there hunting for the food, bringing it in and feeding the family, creating that shelter for her to nest and take care of his lineage. Okay, I mean, so men have to really, step it up. But at the times that we're in, it's kind of hard if you're not developing those skills. A lot of things that's happening is guys are creating babies at a young age where they don't have those skills developed. Okay, and
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't like that traditionally. Okay, traditionally, you would present yourself to the family as, I'm this man who has X, Y, and Z, and I can
Yeah.
provide for your daughter. So you can allow her to, and the father would look like, yes, daughter, this is the man right here,
Yeah.
because as a father to a daughter, I would want my daughter to leave my house and go to her husband's house. That's not the situation it is right now. So you still have to adapt. Okay, if you're going to be doing that at an early age, that bond between that woman and man still needs to be there. Again, every great man has a great woman on his side, so she has to
Yeah.
fight with him for thick and thin, so he can be at that level to where he can want to provide. He might be, making that medium wage of 45,000, working as a plumber, right? But man, plumbers make a lot of money when they have their own business and they're doing side jobs. They're making six figures. Believe
Yeah.
me, I know it. Electricians, all these guys that people are overlooking in society, for doing the labor work, construction, all that, they have that potential to be making that 6 figure income to where he can take over, the financial load of the household, and the woman could be in her feminine, right? And focus on the duties that she has as a woman, because it's all about duty. Unfortunately, society has people forgetting about the duty and going into the feelings mode. And
Mm-hmm.
weak men are jumping into the feelings mode, right? And that's where all the chaos and dysfunction comes in. Is
I
because men aren't supposed to be about their feelings. They're supposed to be about their purpose.
about duty. I think uh okay, he says two separate categories. The birth rate is dropping because people are not having kids. Okay, birth rate, my fault. I don't why I saw birth rate. I don't know.
Yeah, the birth rate is
I
dropping because
missed that.
people are not having
Yeah,
kids. That's
and
correct.
that's what he said. So okay, I misread his comment. Um,
This
but I
is
think
another reason why that the government has noticed that. They noticed it. Is the statistics are out there.
yeah,
There it's kind of like genocides going on for a lot of different races.
yeah,
Okay, and that's why there's a change, because that whole Roe versus Wade thing was supposed to be an experimental situation,
yeah.
which they seen had backfired, and
It
it's and,
wasn't
it, and it's
supposed to
not going to
stick.
create, dude. If you're not having 5 kids, 6 kids, 7 kids, the possibility of something traumatic might happen. If you have one or 2 kids, now your lineage is only, you relying on your lineage for only one child,
Yeah,
right? When look, as a combat veteran, I know what 6, 7 guys can do, right? So you have 6, 7, 8 kids that's on the mission,
yeah,
that's together, combining on a mission,
yeah.
that can control, the whole generation after generation after generation. Majority of the wealthy people do that. That's why you hear of these families like the
Having these
Rothschilds,
multiple
or
kids.
all that, right? They
Yeah.
have a lot of kids going on here.
See, my
All right,
my
but
dad had
society is trying to make us feel like that's not the way to do it, and they're giving people the incentive, women the incentive to not make it happen too, and that's why this change is going about. And I'm hoping the change is going to be for better for my children and my children's children, to realize, like, look, it takes a family. All right, guys are going to be guys. Guys are going to be knuckleheads, right?
right.
But as long as they're doing their duty, that's what it's all about.
I think that so my dad had five boys, right?
Right.
Five boys. So like we had a whole starting lineup. and
Yeah.
we would be out there tearing it up. No matter what we got into, it's five boys. My sisters had, so there's two girls, five boys. They got five brothers. So anything goes on in school, anything goes on around neighborhoods, you got five boys showing up, and we would. So it was crazy.
Protecting their
I'm saying
sisters, right?
protecting
If
the
they're
yeah, protecting the family, dude. Like protecting the
yeah.
family. There was one time my dad, some dude was we was all moved out at this time, but some dude was showing up at my dad's house, just like hanging around his house. He called the boys, so we pulled up at my dad's house. You know what I'm saying? So it was it's just cool to see those type of things. But I get what you're
Not the
saying.
same impact if
And
it's just one guy, right?
no,
It's not the
it's
same
not.
impact.
But that's why I
That's the
said,
Academy boys right there, right?
yeah.
Like,
But that's what I'm saying.
yeah.
That's why, like, economically, what I was saying earlier, like to have that marriage, have that family. That's why with now they're going to incentivize even young parents, young families to have kids. They're going to incentivize, people to start having kids again. But at the same time, it has to be affordable to live, right? A lot of times you see these major families, it's in poverty, and then like, you're digging your way out. So I get that. But so before versus now, people aren't willing to choose struggle, if that makes sense, Paul. People aren't willing to choose struggle anymore. And that's why abortion was what it was. Birth control was doing what it's doing. Because, hey, listen, I'm not ready to have kids right now. You see people, I mean, you've worked with people, have heard people have conversations, and guys that are doing pretty well in life. They're like, I'm just not ready to have kids right now. Even though
Which
they
is
can't
smart.
afford it. Even though they can't
But it's
afford it.
but
You
it's
know,
smart, especially
they're
if
saying,
they're
I don't
young
want
and
to
they're
have
not
kids right now.
situated.
No, but I'm
Yeah.
talking about you are of age. You are older. You do have a home, and they're just like, I'm just not ready to have kids right now. Late 20s, early 30s, mid 30s, I'm just not ready to have kids. I know someone. I used to work with them,
That's
uh,
probably not the right
and
age for them to have kids. Still in the 20s, guys are still developing their skills. They're developing their
well,
skill set. You're
but
not going to really find a
you
guy
can
who's
still get in
25,
relation.
26 years old, established and having his own house, having a good job, paying job, making six figures until he's about 35, 40 years old.
So you're saying that's when you start having kids? I knew this one guy. He owns a company. Um,
That would be ideal.
and
It would
and
be
and
ideal.
he's like 50s, 40s, 50s when I was having this conversation with him, maybe like 40 something. No kids. No kids, no wife, no nothing. And he says, I don't want to have kids. So in my mind, I'm thinking, you have this, and his company was successful because he used to do contracts with us at Lockheed. So I'm like,
Okay.
he's doing pretty well. I wasn't gonna get into it with him, but I'm just thinking like, so you're amassing all of this, and there's no one to leave it to, and he's not
There's a
even
lot of guys
considering
like
that.
that right now. Yeah,
And
there's a
he's
lot of
like,
guys like that right
he says, I don't want the headache. I don't want to go through it. And he's just like telling me all these things. And that's why I was saying people aren't willing to choose struggle, Paul.
because you
And
can't blame them. You can't blame them,
that's why I
Dan.
said I understand it. I get what he's
Mhm.
trying to say. I get what he's getting at. I understand the conversation, you know? Um,
Well, look at it.
he
It
said,
doesn't
let
matter
me,
about.
I got
It's
worse.
not about like how
Dude,
much money the
uh,
guy makes too either. Because look at these guys like Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, all that they get divorced and all that, and the wife takes half of it. So I can understand why that guy who's successful doesn't want to have kids and get into the marriage ring is because there's
if
incentives for women to
to separate.
destroy and break that, yeah, and
If
break
you
that home. There's no bondage.
Let me say this really quick, Paul. If you want to get in on the conversation, we are taking calls. So if go back to the post, you'll see the Zoom meeting ID and password, and then I'll bring you in. I see what you. I want to hear what you got to say too, Johannes. I want to hear what you got
Yeah,
to say
yeah,
too.
Hanse. It's Hanse,
Hannes,
yo.
why do
Yo,
I keep saying
I
Johannes,
don't
bro?
know. I don't know. But Daniel, look, a man, listen, it's okay to be scared for a man. It's
So
okay,
that's what you think
right?
it is, fear?
It is fear. And fear shouldn't be a deciding factor on whether you progress in life. I can't speak for, certain men. They could have been traumatized, growing up. You don't know what happened to them. They don't want to put kids into the society that's dealing with, gender identity crisis and incentivizing to the dysfunction of family. I get that. I get that, but it shouldn't stop you. I mean, as a man, it shouldn't stop me from wanting to, pass on my seed and my lineage and watch, my bloodline grow. Right. That's just for me. I can't speak on for everyone.
Right.
But the whole essence of a man, is to be able to multiply. That's why we, you know, have that ability to procreate on a daily basis if we wanted to, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
just the biological fact, right? We have that ability, separate, which um, makes us different than women. Women don't have that ability, to
Right.
procreate every day in their life. If they once they get pregnant, they that
They down
reproduction
for it.
system
Yeah.
stops, right, for that 9 months, right?
Yeah.
But the whole the ideal, right, point is for that woman to be tied in and tuned in to that man that she's having kids with. What you see nowadays is a lot of women are having kids with guys that they don't even want to listen to or create that bond with. That's why,
Man. Yeah.
marriages is on the low
Yeah.
and single mothers, households are on the
Dude,
rise.
I blame it's a flex now. I seen this girl online, this artist. I don't want to say her name, but she was online and she's like, man, all these women are getting pregnant. When am I need someone to have a baby with me. And I'm like,
Mm.
having a kid is a flex. You know
It's
what I'm
more
saying?
important than the marriage.
More important than the marriage is. And I'm thinking, I'm like, yo, the only person who loses in this is the child. The child
There
loses
we
in
go.
that, man.
That's
The child
the
loses in
best part.
that because it's not it takes both of those, man. It takes the man and the woman to raise a child. That's what gives the kid that balance, right? I was talking
Yeah.
to I was talking to one of my friends. He's a father, and we talk about parenting a lot. And I said, don't let anything get in the way of you being a dad. I don't care who it is. I don't care who it is, what it is. Don't let anyone get in the way of you being a dad because that kid is gonna need that child is gonna need what you have, right? The child needs that. Even if you feel like in a moment you're like, oh man, I might have went too much or oh, it wasn't enough or whatever you feel within yourself, figure it out. But don't stop doing it, right? Because that child is going to need you. You being present is you're already putting that child over like 60% just in your presence alone. You haven't even said or done anything. Just the sheer fact of your presence. That's why even with your kids, you already know. Right? Dad, you stand up to say something to that kid, they got attention like that. It don't
I don't
take
even need
much.
to say anything.
Yeah,
I just give them that look.
give
I
them a
give them
look.
that look.
And that kid knows what to do, right?
Yeah.
Knows what to do. With mom, it's not that simple, right? It's not that
And that's
easy,
not her
and
fault
that
though.
doesn't
You
take
can't.
right, right, because it's
Go
not her.
ahead. Like you were saying.
It's not her
Like you were saying,
responsibility
it's
to,
that
bro.
yin and yang, right? The
Yep,
mother is supposed to be the one that is the friend, the nurturer,
the
right?
nurturer, bro. Yeah,
Right, the nurturer, the friend, the pamperer. When he scrapes his knee, mommy's like,
yep,
"Oh, okay,
yep.
baby," and the
They
daddy's
don't
like,
even
"No,
want
get
dad.
up, get
They don't
up."
even
You know
want
what I'm
dad.
saying?
Where's mommy?
That's
When they
nothing.
start crying, they want mom out the gate. They don't even want
Yeah,
dad. They don't even want that. That's not your that's not your thing. And it's okay. And I tell dads this all the time. It's okay that they don't run to you first. It's okay. Let that be mom. Even if you may want to step in, go in there after mom. You know what I'm saying? Let mom do her thing first because that kid needs that. At that point, it's mom's time, right? It's mom's thing to do. And
yeah.
there's a place for dad. And I think a lot of times, you know, men too, men want to be able to do what mom does and wants the kid to respond to them like mom, and vice versa. Moms want the kids to respond to them like dad. That's just not the case. It will never be the case. And that's
Usually,
why they're supposed to be there at the same time, where that kid has that balance. And you can often look, Paul, I'm pretty sure you've been out and you've noticed, oh, there's no dad around that kid. That
of
kid has
course.
a father around him. You can just tell. You can just look at a kid and you can tell that there's a dad around, or if there's a dad not around. You can just see it. And just the way they move, their mannerisms, everything. And we're not talking just behavior, right?
It's important for the father to be around again because the father trains the child. He
Right.
trains the child in the way he's supposed to act and everything. The mother is there as a nurturer. The boy is on the bike and then he falls and scrapes his knee. The mother's like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
Right? I get, and that child has that reaction like, "Oh," and then starts to cry, right? But the
Right.
father is there like, "Nah, it's nothing. Go ahead." Doesn't even react to the kid falling down. He's just like, "Nah, get back on that bike.
Yeah.
You got this." You
Yeah.
get what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
a totally different because we train the child in order to be a man. The majority of masculine men have male figures in their life, to teach them and train them on how to be man. You can be a male and not be a man, okay? Because that sense of duty is instilled through training.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that's just automatically there. The mother is there to be the friend. That's what happens all the time. That's why, you know, guys get away with murder with their mom. They do something bad. The mom's like, "Oh, this is nothing." But let dad find out. Oh, I'm gonna tell your father. It's a totally different, situation now that the child's facing.
Yeah.
Okay.
When dad's gone.
Um, so yeah, the point is, nowadays society is incentivized in the separation of the family. Okay, um, it takes men to step up and you know be careful who they're procreating with because they should procreate with a woman who um, they can know that they're going to be creating that bond not just for 5 years, 6 years, seven, but for life. It has to
Mm-hmm.
be a life thing. But the man has to make that decision because we choose who we get into relationships with.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the whole point. Women choose who they want to allow a man to sleep with, but we
Mm-hmm.
choose who we want to have relationships with, and it's our responsibility to not sexualize the women enough to just start busting seeds everywhere. We have to be responsible. Seriously, we have to be
Be
responsible
responsible with
of
your
where
seed, man.
yeah, exactly. Of where we laying our seeds down and
Mm-hmm.
planting our roots. I put that responsibility on the men, but unfortunately, how it has been going since about the 70s or 60s or whatever is just a lot of men being raised by women and they're not understanding these traditional values that need to be put in place. I'm not saying that men don't can't have fun or whatever, but be responsible when you're having fun. Okay.
Yep. Yep.
That way because because it's I'm not saying it's better, but yeah, it's good for a man to be experienced and know what he's doing, to be able to, handle a woman, satisfy a woman or whatever.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to creating that family and creating that lineage, man, you
Yeah.
got to be responsible. You got to make the right decisions of who you are going to, be passing your DNA to and everything, man, just straight up.
I was gonna
So
say
I
this when you were talking about tradition. I was gonna say, like, when we talk about traditional, right, and what traditional is and what that means, it's all in what the tradition is for that culture, for that that city. Sometimes there's family traditions, and when we talk about a traditional man and things of that nature, there, I think traditional has been lost because of the family unit. So when we start talking
what do you
about what it should, so so I mean, like, so when we talk about, like, what a traditional man is, and passing down those family or cultural traditions when it comes to marriage and family and raising children, there is no family unit, you know, much of a family unit anymore. So there is no tradition to pass down. So I don't know if you're even gonna find much. Oh, you said you in there? I got you. I got you. Can you hear me over there? Unmute your mic. Unmute your mic. You gotta unmute yourself. You unmute yourself?
Yeah, it should be. Hold on.
There you go. There you go. Can you hear him, Paul?
I
Yeah,
had to
what's
turn
up,
off
Hanse?
the. I was listening to you. What's up? I was
Not
listening,
much,
so I had
bro.
to turn it off.
What
You hear me?
what yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah.
We
What
can
did you want to say, Hanse?
I mean, there's a bunch I want to say. um, so here, because you said this a lot, and so I was challenge you and ask you a question,
real
right?
quick,
Sure.
Hanse. Do you
What's
want to
up?
come on camera? You want just your voice or you
Yeah,
want your
yeah.
video?
No, we do video. I don't care.
Okay, I'm gonna bring you on so everybody can see you. All right, you're good.
Yeah. So the first question I would ask you is like, you're saying traditional man and everything. So what's a man?
A man a man is one who is on his purpose and provides and protects for his family, community, okay, his society. That is my definition of a man. Do you agree or disagree?
I think that's a part of it, but I think that's a thing that anyone can do. That doesn't mean they do it well, but they do it. So when people talk about being a man and what a man is and everything else, I always find it just interesting because you can never get a consensus on what this is, right? Provide, protect, those are characteristics of what men should do. Agree. Is it all men are?
That's not all men are. Everyone's different. Every man's different, but that's the foundation and the basis of a man. Granted, everyone could do it, but as far as the two genders, men do it better. We provide and we protect better.
I
That's our
think
duty. For
I was
example,
gonna say
in the
that.
Is
when
it our
it
duty
biological.
or is it what we choose as a duty?
No. This is just based off of biology. All right, because what's the duty of a woman, right? In her term of reproduction is to nest, nurture, feed the children. She can't be out there providing and protecting when she's pregnant. Whose duty is it? It's the man's duty. Do
I
you agree or disagree?
I think you're getting the cart before the egg or whatever the saying is, right? So no, you're exactly right. Like
The
yeah,
chicken before the
when
egg.
we're yeah, whatever it is, right? Like the reality, in my opinion, and what I'm saying, I don't know this to be fact or true. I'm just saying, especially today, like, so if we're talking about traditional men in today's day and age, like, well, Daniel hit one of the things on the head. What tradition are we talking about, right? And then what is tradition, right? Because if I wanted to be silly, I would just tell you tradition is peer pressure from dead people. So why do I
mm,
care about that, right?
that's why I said it's what is passed down because you got cultural traditions, you got different family traditions, you got traditions that are based off of the region, right? Different regions, different areas are going to have different traditions
Yeah.
based off of what they're around and what they're exposed to. So I may have a tradition that I may want to pass down, and my wife is like, "Well, my family we didn't do it that way, so I want to pass this tradition down." So now,
Well,
That, and again, that's why it's up to the man to get with someone that they can bond with. But I'm talking about tradition as in our biological nature. That's what I'm talking about.
okay,
Aside of
but I think
social
the
norms, aside of social norms and what we see, from media or TV. I'm talking about what's the best outcome for a child. The best outcome for a child is two, right? The man and the woman. During that time and that outcome of a child, who's going to be providing and who's going to be protecting while the woman is creating that child? And it should be the man. And the man, regardless, even after, should have that instilled within him to be wanting to provide and protect for his family even after the children are born. That's something that we do better than
Mhm.
the opposite gender. I'm not saying that you have to agree, but
No, no. I
that's
mean,
what
I
I mean
agree.
by
I'm a proponent for families and everything else. I just think, well, two things, right? I'll cut to the chase, right? Two things, right? Everything's marketing, and when you talk the way you talk, and your marketing is not good. People don't want to hear that, right? So, yeah, there are people who want
that's
to hear
true, but
parts of
but,
it.
but it's not about what people want to hear. It's about
Hold
the
on, hold
you
on,
know
hold on. You're a
real.
businessman. You're a businessman. You got to sell your product. You got to sell your product. So you can tell me it's not about what they want to hear, but again, and also you're a father, right? Kids want to hear things, and then there's a way to sell things to kids to make them want to do it, right? Not everybody wants to hear about their duties and rights and blah 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 blah. Sometimes you have to make things sexy. Sometimes you have to make things accessible, right?
And I've never been one to have a tactical approach to thing. I'm a straight and direct shooter, right?
No, you're not. You're
Tactical
a
approach
businessman.
is
No,
not
you're not.
my
You're a
my style.
businessman. You're a successful businessman. So you get the job done. That means you don't get the job done in one fashion. You get the job done the way it needs to be.
That's true.
Yeah, I get the job done by being straight shooter. That's how I've always
You're
been,
you
and
you
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 know that too.
advertise, right? You advertise, right?
Yes,
Okay. How do you do your advertisements?
I actually let someone else do it because that's not my thing.
But they make sure that the messaging is correct, right?
Yes.
All
So,
right.
are
So that's
you
all we're
saying
saying.
that the message that I'm getting out is it correct that men shouldn't provide,
I'm saying that
men
if you're
shouldn't
talking
protect
to a
their
if you're
family?
talking to people in 2025 today, right, about anything, how you talk is probably more important than what you say,
I
right?
think that's standard for a lot.
And when you're think about it, right? If you were, say this is a call full of women right now, you're talking the way you want you talking, and they got degrees and they got everything else. They don't want to hear what you're saying.
What you trying to tell me that women with degrees don't want a man to provide for them or to
What
protect
I
them?
no no
I
I'm what
disagree
I'm
with
telling
that.
you. So if you pause, so if you look at it, right, if we talk about hypergamy, it gets hard for them to find a man to agree to provide for them. Right? You said the average man makes $45,000 a year. So now she's just raised her standard. This is the same conversation I just had with my daughter. Hey, if you make six figures, it's a lot harder to find a man, right? Because
Mm.
any man,
Which is
most men,
true.
we can pull up to the bus stop and be like, get in, Chanel, because she looks good, right? A woman's not gonna pull up to the bus stop and be like, get in, Jamal, just because he looks good, right?
Exactly.
He's got to have all the characteristics, right? And
Right.
so And so again, if you know your audience is different, and certain people want to be talked to a certain way. And here's another, like, just a legit statistical fact, man, is like every country where women become educated, the birth rate drops precipitously, and they don't have an answer for it.
You
I
know why
have
that
I
is
I
though.
have a
You
I
you
have
know why
a
that is though,
I have an
Hanse.
I
opinion on
mean,
that, Hanse.
I was
there's,
gonna
I
Hanse,
say
the
you
mean,
you know
reason
there's a lot
why,
of,
why
right?
I think the birth rate drops from educated women is because instead of focusing on family, they focus on
Yeah.
career and they go past that childbearing stage. Okay, so
well, I mean, so regardless,
they're hitting that 30, 35-year-old mark now where they can't produce as many kids as they would have when they were 21, 22.
you also don't have to produce as many kids as you did once
I
did.
was gonna say the desire is gone at that point,
It, desire, there's a lot of
At
things, right?
35,
and
at
in
34, of
time,
course.
and
Of
in time,
course.
like, come on, bro. If a woman is in school and she's pursuing a degree, she most of the times they don't want family, or
Not
at
not
that
I'm
at
not
yet
that
until
necessarily. I
time
mean,
at that time
listen.
they might not want family.
I,
until
w- I
after
would
they
I
get that
wouldn't
degree.
I wouldn't be so presumptuous to say what they would and wouldn't do. I'm just gonna say like, here's what the data and the anecdotes say, right? I've been a man who's chased, we'll call successful women most of his life, right? And they come to this, and like all things, it comes with a side effect, right?
Yeah.
If you date a businessman, it comes with side effect. If you date a successful or very intelligent women, it comes with a side effect. And so that's all I would say is just that, they're people that they're less interested at a certain time. Now, I'm a fan of the fact that you cannot run your biology,
Mm.
Correct. That's the
right?
truth. And so
But
if they are pursuing their careers and their education, they're going past that time mark, bro.
But it's
maybe,
gonna hit them later though. It hits them, men and women, right?
Right,
It hits them later.
because in
That
to
is a
me in a
good
woman's
saying though. You
DNA,
cannot run your
in a woman's
biology, bro.
DNA, right? To me, like biologically, a woman wants a man to take care of her. She doesn't want to be out there
see,
working till
that's I don't
she's
I wouldn't say that's
65 years old.
biological. That's
You
I
don't
would
think
say
that's
it beneath.
biological? I
I would
think
say that
it's
I would say having wanting to have a kid is biological. I would say that
Correct.
wanting a man to protect your kid is biological. Wanting to have a man as a partner could be, but here's the other thing, regardless of whether it is or not. Here's the thing that I know to be true with having boys and girls, right? And just being a man in society today. We are pushing our girls to be strong, independent women, and it doesn't matter where you push a man because he wants what he wants, and what most of us want is a woman,
that's
Yeah,
true.
that
right?
is
And so
true.
you can't you and listen. And here's the other thing. These are just my takes, right? Everybody got can tell you how we got here, but nobody can tell you a solution, right? And that's like that for all things. It's like, have you ever heard this thing where people like they were like, the fall of an empire happens when fill in the blank. This is how all empires fall,
Yeah.
right? But nobody can solve that problem. We all know these answers, but they can't solve it.
I think
I
because
would
by the
say
time you get to the end,
a direction that men should head into is in their early ages and their young ages to build as much skill and capabilities possible so that they can be able to provide for their families. Okay, so they can
I think
find
that's a great
that woman.
one. I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
I'm gonna back you up. I'm gonna back up on you though, and I'm gonna say like if we're really talking about traditional, like most of our families and parents and people in my perspective, they built together. They didn't wait till they were established,
Mm,
mm,
it,
that's a good
not
point.
right?
really, not
That's a
really.
good
Yeah,
See,
point.
because
really.
I
Yeah,
They
know,
was
really.
and
broke.
not
They
Because
was
saying
broke
most.
together.
so hold on. So yes, they were broke together, but
Yeah.
two, also
Yeah, they were broke together.
relationships grew back then. This is just my take on it. I don't think people get a average second date or an average third date. If you don't have a out of the park first date or an out of the park second date, you ain't getting a third, right? But back in the day, if you had an okay first date, you'd be like, oh man, we do it again.
That's the data
And we
market
do
that we're in
it.
right now. Yeah, they're
I mean,
expecting. People
but
are
this is what we're
expecting.
talking about. But that's what we're
People are
talking about. And
expecting a
so
Disney movie to occur, right? And that's
Yeah.
not really the reality of it. That's not how it was back traditionally. Traditionally, it was arranged marriages. If we really want to go back
well,
there,
I mean, depending
right?
on where you are and depending on where you're going back. Like my parents ain't from an arranged marriage. My dad met my mom and tried to date her and then dated her and then married her. It's
Yeah,
1978 they've been married.
I
So
like arranged marriage. I'm just gonna put that out there.
really,
yeah. That's
Oh,
the traditional way, right?
I was a
The
fan of that in
parents,
history. I'm a fan
of
of that in
course,
history.
because it
I'm not.
worked.
You're
Because
not
it
a
worked.
fan
It
of
wasn't
it?
about love. It wasn't about love.
Mm.
It wasn't about the first date. It wasn't about getting out there and trying out the market
Listen,
for.
I
It
mean,
was
listen,
about,
man,
look,
listen. Like if
this
what
woman
what you're
fits your
saying,
characteristics and your
if
personality. We know that you can have a long term bond with this woman. Get together. You
uh,
get what I'm saying?
here,
And you guys will figure it out along the way. And
I
those
want
relationships lasted for forever,
I want to hear
so
forever.
here,
I want to hear why you You're not a fan of it.
Number one, just because something, it's two things, man. Just because something was traditional and worked 30, 40, 50, 100 years ago, don't mean we should do it today,
Oh God, no! I don't think we
right?
should do it today. Oh
Right.
God, no! I
So
don't think
like,
so. I don't think so.
just
Why
because,
not?
I,
just because an ox pulled the plow doesn't mean it should pull the plow today,
because I
right?
think what you have, I
Yes.
think the reason why it was done back then, it had a benefit for that in history. To a degree, I think you could probably do some type of arranged marriage like that nowadays, but I just don't think that
I mean,
it has the same
It
function as
still
it
goes
would in
on
history.
today. It just
it's
doesn't
the,
happen in
here's
our
a
culture.
Right.
here's a
Okay.
funny thing about arranged
I got you
marriages.
with that.
It still goes on.
They have a high success rate.
You can
It
see
does.
why, right?
Even modern. Well, I mean, you usually there's the backing of a religion
Yes. Yes.
in there, right? Like when you have a
Yeah.
higher
Yeah.
thing saying like, hey, buddy, you're supposed to do this,
Shape up.
right? And then
Yeah.
and also those are extremely patriarchal societies. So I'm not
It's the vetting
no
of the
judgment.
family though, too. That's what arranged
Yes.
Well,
marriages
it's
are.
the
It's the
vetting of
vetting
the
of the family.
family
It's the
if you
vetting
have
of
it's the
the
vetting of the
father.
family if you have a good name and you have a good
Correct.
family.
Mm-hmm.
This is the other part, right? We forget like it's only a small percentage. And so even when we're talking about men today, right? Men today in America, like the stats say that 20% of men are having sex with all the women.
Wait, what?
Yes, that's true. That is true. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, 80% of
It's a
men
good.
are sexless or near sexless, right? And so this
Yeah.
20% of men,
Hold on.
yeah, he just had his mind blown.
What?
Right. Yeah, for
Dude,
real. There's a
what?
lot of guys out there that's not getting any, seriously. And the majority
Yeah.
of the kids
Oh,
that are being
I
born is
got
from
it.
a small.
I need to have that conversation with some dudes, bro. So they just
Well, I mean, so like
so
that goes to the whole,
are we talking about that the stat that talks about the same stat that talks about available men, how men age or they may be married or their sexual orientation?
yeah,
Is that
available
No,
same
it's
men.
thing?
a
Or
lot
are we
of
just
men
Well,
are
talking
so
not
yeah,
about
it's yes and so the
a lot of
stat the
men
way
are
the
not
stat
making
reads.
themselves valuable and desirable. That's the reason why they're not getting, into the market, the
Yeah,
dating
yes
market.
and no.
damn.
That's a part of it. The other part of it is, and you hit on this is so dating is just different, right?
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
Once upon a time, like I'm from a town outside of DC. It's not a town. It's more of a big city, right? But before the internet, you dated people in that city,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mhm.
Now Now, if I want to hop on Instagram and start talking to a chick in Miami, I can, right? And so on and so forth. So a girl in the middle of Nebraska has 32 suitors, and some of those suitors might even just be NBA players. Now they only want her for a night, but that's
She's
still
getting the attention.
she getting a lot of attention, right? And so if you have the pick of the litter, you can just keep picking the litter. And
Right,
again,
but
average,
that
and
comes
then
back to. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
and that comes back to average, right? Like if you average, you average, right? And so that's why this 20% gets pick of the litter. And I mean, it's to Paul's point. And this is what point that I have, and this is my market, right? This is what I coach to. I coach men to get better in life, not just for women, but just in
It's
all
about.
things. And so there are a large percentage of men that just they're not doing nothing.
So
They don't know what
Yeah,
to
right.
do. They don't know how to do it.
women don't even want to talk
You
to
know.
them.
Their
But I
sexual
mean, in this
marketplace is
well,
low.
I mean, yeah, and I mean, that's the way that the guys on the internet talk about it. But the other thing too is just like like you hit it on you talked about it earlier, Paul. Like people, a lot of men just don't have skills. Like right, and like
That's
this
why I
is one of the
encourage
deep.
guys young to develop that skill. You know what I mean?
But
So
what
that they
skill
can
though?
be
So
ready.
when I'm talking about when I say skill, I mean all around, right? A lot of people just want to make the skill of making money, and that's cool,
No,
right? I make a good chunk of change, but like, here's the thing that I've learned as I got older, especially being a guy who got single after being older, right? Got divorced, um, is that like a lot of dudes out here can't change a tire, can't do nothing, like
that's
handy
the
around the
truth.
house.
Yeah.
They
Can't
can't
hang a
use
TV on the
whatever.
wall.
Can't they? You can't do a majority of things, right? Well, it just snowed out here, man. Like, these dudes ain't gonna shovel no snow.
Dang,
You
it
know what I'm
just snowed.
saying? They
Where
don't know
you
what to
at?
do.
It's true.
Woodbridge,
Yeah.
Virginia. I'm out right outside DC.
I can't
And
do
so,
snow,
But
man.
it's not all about the money though. Like I would made a point about the plumber, the electrician. They have a skill that they
No,
can later on down the line create that income. You know what I'm saying? But when you
agreed. But
start,
I think when we're talking skill, we're talking two different things, though. You're talking about as a profession. I'm talking about
Yeah,
skill as in
as a
life,
man.
right? So, like,
right,
even just introducing yourself to a lady, right? Like, if you're a
yeah,
guy and you don't read, or you don't have, I mean, even if you don't watch certain TV shows or movies, and you walk in, like, so here's an example. I walk into a hotel, lady's reading a book. She's reading The Body Keeps the Score. None of the guys I'm with have ever read this book. I've read it. So what happens? I walk right up to her and I start talking about the book. So that's just skill of just being able to have conversation based on you being open, and whatever else. That's all I'm
well
saying.
rounded.
But
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah,
even if you haven't read the book, you can still strike a conversation outside of that.
yeah,
Is
for
okay.
sure, for sure.
So what? But what I hear you talk about when I hear you talk about skill, that's still those are traditional man traits. If air quote that, right? I'm going to air quote it
Mhm.
because just because you don't know how to do that, it doesn't necessarily mean you're a man. You might not know how to do it because you never had to, depending on whatever your your
Yeah,
standing in life was. But that's just man traits. At the same time, though, wouldn't that be a tradition, right? Wouldn't it be traditional for your father to pass down? Because that's how I learned how to change a tire. That's how I learned mechanics. My
That's
dad
how I learned.
bought it all
Yeah,
out to me. Like anytime my dad did anything, hey son, come. Let me show you how to change the tire. Let me show you how to change the oil. Let me show you how to
and
starter,
speaking on your point,
alternator.
I think
Like
the way I was able to talk to women was because I was trained on how to from the men in my
my
family as well.
dad,
My
yeah,
uncles, my dad, yeah. You know my dad. He's charming as hell, right? So
yeah,
that is it's a learned trait that's why it's important for the father to be around the kids because it's not something that is automatically there when a child is born. It's something that is trained, and you can only train them if your presence is there. Get what I'm saying? And even if say but if something disastrous happened, your father's not there, but uncles, um, you know, brothers, any type of male figure that could create a positive impact in that man's life, can help him, develop those skills that are necessary to be able to, you know, find that woman so he can procreate. But hopefully he's not trying to find that woman that's on Instagram hitting up all those other guys because she got the pick of the litter. Because that woman right there isn't going to create that bond with that guy. You get what I'm saying? She's not, because she's going to always feel like the grass is green on the other side. You get what I'm saying?
I
She's
can't hear
so.
you,
But that's a
Hansen.
good point that you made. That's a good point that you made.
you got me.
Oh, now I can hear you. Now we can hear you. Okay.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get wrapped around the axle on this like Instagram, social media, Miami mindset.
Yeah.
They're worried about, like, you know, things are regional. If you go to Miami looking for a wife, like, good luck.
Nah, dude,
Good
you
luck.
don't want to do that. You don't want to do.
You know, like, but that's what I mean. I think you get, it's like a lot of these things, right? Like, yes, they're traditional and we learn them from there, but like, there's also nothing stopping you from learning and changing, other than yourself, right?
Facts.
You can go on the internet is made for more than cat videos and porn. Like, I can't say it enough, right? Like, you can learn anything, you know, but people will just limit themselves to whatever it is that they're on at the moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Yeah,
when it comes to like these skills or these skill sets or experiences or the ability to tell stories or the ability, man, like I remember when I came back from Dubai and the way I would talk to women, and women would be like, "You went to Dubai?" Like it was
yeah.
like it was fantasy land or something,
That's a flex,
It
you
is
know?
man.
fantasy
That's a
land,
flex.
dude. What do you mean?
But well, but you know what I mean? Like,
I bet you they were treating you like LeBron James out there too, right?
I don't like that place, man. No, that's a whole nother
You know?
story.
Oh,
No, I do not like it. It's terrible. It's a terrible place.
um,
oh
They
man.
that's
a lot of
that's
a lot of horrible humans doing horrible things out there.
that's
No,
a. I I was saying it earlier, man, and I don't know where I don't know where you at, Paul. with our runtime and stuff.
No, I was
But
reading my text. My sister just texted me. She's like, "Dad's a player."
oh man, dude,
That's what's up.
I was gonna say I think I said it earlier where I think just like the desire, you know, between men and women to like even come together and want to be together. I said it earlier, and I said people just don't want, they don't choose, you know, to struggle anymore. You were saying that they got together, they came up together, like choosing, you know, struggle, not, you know, not, or maybe I could say choosing, you know, to do something difficult or doing something hard at the same time. That's just life. I don't think
I
tiptoeing
think
and
they're
trying to find
entitled.
the easiest way to do things, you know?
I think people are
So
entitled and they want everything pre-built when it
my
comes to a
opinion
relationship. Right?
Yeah.
my opinion on that is girls, right? Women, right? They are always, they have that bond gene, right? That first love, right? Just think of that girl's first love. She'll do anything for that man, right?
Mm-hmm.
Until it gets to that point where she's told or thinks that she needs to get away from that man. However, society put it, he might cheat on her or something like that. So now she's not with her, and that's that trauma that builds up to her for her not being able to bond. Um, I think the success rate is higher when a woman sticks with a man no matter what goes on. You get what I'm saying?
What do you wait? What do you
Uh,
mean? Wait.
no matter what goes on, like for instance, a lot of women are taught nowadays, like if a man does cheats or something or sleeps with another woman, that she needs to, you know, get away with them. That's what she learns from other women, right? When in the past, women looked past that. They were just happy to have a man. They fell in love with the man, and that's the man that they're going to be with for the
So
rest of their life.
so I think the problem here is you're carrying forward one thing without carrying forward the rest.
You're not understanding what I'm saying, or you say, what do you mean by
No, I
that?
understand completely. Right? A woman didn't leave a man back in the day because she couldn't get a bank account.
Yeah, times has changed now. They're incentive. There's much more incentive to them to
So,
break
but I
away.
want you to understand but I want you to understand what that really says to me, right? And I don't mean any shade by this, right? I'm not strong enough to keep you.
Wait, what?
If you have to rely on the fact that a woman needs a bank that she
Oh,
can't,
I
can't,
see what you're
you
saying.
know what I'm
Okay.
saying?
Yep. I
Yeah.
got you.
Like, because that's what a lot of these guys are saying. Like,
I
oh, they're
got you.
incentivized. She's not incentivized. She's a human. She's living life, right?
See,
So, so that's what it says to me when I hear that, because it's like the same thing when these guys, and you said it earlier, like, oh well, look at like um Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates lost their wives no matter their millions of dollars. Losers are
Right.
losers. You can
because
be a
it's not
loser with a
just the
billion
money.
dollars.
Yeah, yeah.
And so,
I'm not saying I'm not saying that they're not losers. Of course, I'm not.
But everybody uses them as an example though, and they're fucking losers. Excuse my language.
no, you're
The
Like,
point
good.
but
I
they're
was getting
losers.
at is
Use your
that money
language,
isn't the
Hanse.
all. Money isn't everything. That's the point that I was getting at. It's
But
not, money's not going to keep a woman. You get what I'm
What
saying?
what
yeah,
I
a
was
hundred
gonna say
percent.
to what you said is I understand what both of you are saying, and this is the way I interpret what both of you are saying, right?
Mm.
As far as like being incentivized to stay, I think that both parties get a disservice because, you know, not being strong enough to keep her, well, both of you have to grow in that situation, right?
Correct.
Because whatever your deal is in your marriage, right? Whatever your deal is, whatever terms you come up with, right? Whatever you decide, both of you are going to have to grow within both of those things, right? And whatever it is that you're doing.
Hundred
Correct.
percent. 100%.
So,
I agree.
so,
I think
so,
one of the
It's a
worst. I think one of the.
spiritual
Oh my god.
it's a
so,
spiritual bond. It's what your vows is all about through
Wait.
right.
So
good and
so
bad.
so so.
So the
But
fact
that's what
that,
you said though.
the fact that, okay, there's these reasons or incentives to like leave, saying that, oh, what you're doing, I can get other places, right? So
Correct.
the woman chooses to leave, right? Because what you're providing, I can get elsewhere. I don't want it
Correct.
from you, right?
or I can get
I
it
get
myself.
what you're saying, Paul, because now, oh, I can just go over here and get it versus saying, how can I keep it and we can grow? So I get to your
Right.
point. I get to both of your points.
But
And that's what I hear
You
when,
said it
but
better
when
than
you
I
say,
could say it, but that's the truth, right?
that's what
Because
I
well,
think
no, so
about.
woman,
it's
I think a man should be allowed to make his mistakes and learn from it. And when he has that good woman by his side, he's gonna grow and become a better man because
I want you
every
to I
great
want you to
man
hear what you're
has a
saying.
great woman.
I want you to hear what you're saying. And when your daughter comes to you and she says, "Hey, Dad, he made his mistakes. Do I stay with him?"
As long as he's doing his duties, yes,
It's not a
yes.
mistake, Paul. I'm a man who cheated. I want to be real with you, real quick. It's not a mistake. I did what I did. A mistake is when I slip and fall on the ice. A mistake is when I drop a piece of pie.
Your
That's a
choice.
mistake. So what we're talking about, if we want to be real, is I forsaken my vows, whatever, however you say it, right? That's the reality of it. And so if you don't want to do that, right? My son just got married. He's
Yeah,
young. I didn't want him to get married this young, but I told him straight up, you in it now.
You in it?
You
yeah.
in it now. If you can't do this, then don't do it.
How old is your son that got married?
20.
That's how old my son is. He just got married too,
Yeah.
man. He kidding.
20.
Yeah, 20. And but I mean, and just to be real, but I just say all this because, and what I mean when I say you're not strong enough, what I really mean and what I'm saying is that one, pick the right person and you don't have to worry about it and you will grow. You should be growing together. Two, be the person who's skillful, charismatic, whatever enough where this isn't the problem, right? These guys are pointing at the internet. They're looking at their Jeff Bezos law. He's a loser, right? And I don't mean loser like I'm better than him. I mean loser like there's something that made him lose his wife, right? There was something that made me lose my wife, and I was a dirtbag, right? Like these are real things, man. And so I think that just people just do a disservice by getting on the internet and saying like, here's the stats, here's the
No,
Um,
look, I get you cut him off.
yeah, he's gonna have to call back
No,
in.
but Hansi, I get what you're saying. That I get what you're saying, but I'm just
Call back
saying
in,
in general.
Hanse.
Of course,
I lost you.
I'm, while you getting him back, I get I get what he's saying, but I'm just saying in general, right?
Right.
Um, if my son, let's say our sons who just got married at a young age, right? Young age, hasn't even experienced the world. Does that if he did end up sleeping with another woman, does that mean he doesn't love his wife? You get what I'm saying? Is if he's
Yeah.
doing everything necessary, if he's doing everything necessary to provide, to protect, he's taking care of the household, but he made that decision.
That
Let's not
choice.
call it a mistake, but he made that decision, a
Yeah.
bad decision, a bad decision. I'm not saying it's a good decision or whatever. It's a bad
Right.
decision because if she finds out, it's gonna hurt her. You know what I mean? Does that mean that she should, to break the household? No, I don't think so. I think they should grow into it together, find out what's wrong, resolve the issue, and then move on. This is what been happening since the beginning of time. But Hansa, you did make a point though. Nowadays, the woman has that capabilities of not needing that man. She makes her own
As
money.
provider. Right.
Yeah, as a provider, she makes her own money. I appreciate you too, Hanse. Thanks for coming on. Um, I don't know if you're gonna come back on, but I do
I'm gonna try
agree
to
with
send
that.
you the
Right.
link, Hanse.
But my point is like not for people to be so quick to destroy what they've created is to find ways around it to keep it keep things together, because especially if you're gonna have kids out of the situation, that whole union between that man and woman is the best possible outcome for that child. All right, and that's what the point that I was getting at. But I say thanks for coming on, bro. It was good to hear your insight about what you said. You made some very valid points there. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I gotta get the Zoom closed on you. So I sent you the link if you're able to join the link back. But that's why I said I get both of the points that you're both trying to make. Oh, here he goes.
He's back on.
Yeah. Yeah. You gotta unmute your mic.
No, but this is good. This is good talk. This is good topics to talk about.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
the point that I'm getting at is, we today's society, and we're right. Today's society is totally different than it was back in the days. But today's society is encouraging people to go where they think the grass is greener. You
mm-hmm.
know, and that goes for everything. Hey, you're married, you don't like it, just get a divorce. It's so quick and easy. Just costs $99, right? That's nothing spiritual
You
about
see
that.
that on the side of the road,
Oh
man.
yeah, you see that,
Yeah,
John, right?
yeah,
There's nothing spiritual about that. Where's the bond?
yeah.
I mean, just because the man made a bad decision, right? You should, abandon him, and I don't think that benefits the family.
You gotta unmute yourself, Hanse. You gotta. We can't. I can't hear you. No, can't hear you. Still can't hear you. Is there a way for you to unmute? Do you see where you can unmute? Um, but while we fix that, that's why I said I think that when you show a woman, or when you put out that you don't need a man there, the incentive to not work. I think that that's a better way to put it. The incentive to not work is there, and both parties, right? I don't think it's. I'm not just going to say the woman. Both, have to desire to want to work, right?
Yes.
To remain, right? To remain, and that's my only thing. Now, if the desire to work is there, if the history of this working was there and it did not work past that, okay, I would never suggest it, right? I understand. I have friends and family that have gone through divorce, so I get it, right? I'm not
Yeah.
saying anything about that. That's all I'm trying to say. It's just that the attempt to work, if it doesn't work, cool. I get it.
The union between man and woman is the best possible outcome for a family and for a strong nation. Okay, and that's what the focus should be on. Men are gonna do things that are not accepted. We're gonna slip up and fall. We're gonna do some dumb shit. You get what I'm saying?
I
But
got you.
it's always been that power. It's always been the power of that positive feminine woman to bring him back home. You get what I'm saying? And that's what that yin and yang comes in, the masculine and the feminine, that unity. And we're not going to be able to get far in life if we don't have that unity. And I
Yeah,
do believe everyone, I don't think it's intended for us to be alone. Everyone needs someone, right?
yeah,
And to make it
yeah,
to make it possible for a person, you know, to go through life with someone is to fight through it thick and thin, go through the battles together. That's the real. That's what a marriage really is fighting through it, the thick and the good and the bad. In my
yeah. To
opinion,
death do us
we're just
part.
so we're just so quick to throw it away now. It's like it's meaningless. That's why divorce rates are high and
Mm-hmm.
marriages are down, and that's why there's a lot of single families going on. Birth rates are down. All of this, and hopefully, you know,
Okay, I'm coming back in. Let me see.
hopefully society will change. And I'm hoping I'm like feeling like I was supposed to be back, born back in the times um, of the past or whatnot. But hopefully society, looks at it like, look, for the betterment of the country, the family needs to be together. Um, it requires a strong man, and it requires a strong woman to do that. But Daniel, but I know
I,
we still want to go through this conversation, but we've been on here for quite some time
yeah, we have, and
right now.
I'm trying to
This
get
has been this
Hanse
has
back
been
in, but
nice.
yeah,
This
I'm
has
trying to get
this has
Hanse
been
back in,
fun.
but we'll probably have to try it again. I don't know. I'm trying to unmute him. He's in the green room, and I can't get him unmuted. But what I will say is this: what you were saying earlier, about the family unit being the solution, and I think the family unit is a solution. I think that however we can get it to where families are being raised up again, I think that will solve a lot. Now, is it the perfect? No, but like you were saying, the best outcome for those children is
Correct.
that. And I get that idea behind that. And it's going to take work. And that's the reason why to death do us part is even a thing, because in the middle of getting to death do us part, that's a lot of red tape.
It's a long ride, right? A bumpy road.
it's a lot.
Hey, but look, so I wanted to emphasize about just men. Men have to step it up, right?
Men definitely got to step it up. Definitely.
Yeah. Let in conclusion, right? Men would have to step it up. Try not to, I get we're gonna have our fun in our early ages. I'm speaking to the young men out there.
The young bucks.
Gain those skills, right?
Yeah.
Gain those skills that's necessary. Like Hanse said, those communication skills, knowing how to talk. Also increasing your income level, right? So that you can be able to provide. I mean, not everyone can. I'm not saying that every man has to be making six figures and stuff like that. No. That's not the case. Sometimes the unity of the man and woman works if both are generating income for the family. Especially in today's times, it's kind of more it's kind of necessary now than ever, right? Because there's not that many guys out there that's making over six figures or more. Okay. Is just the reality of it. But let's work it out. Let's figure out ways to work it out. The solution is to be able to fight for what you want, and hopefully what you want is the children to turn out better than how we were.
Yeah, and that's the ultimate goal, man.
Yeah.
But it was dope, man. This was dope. We definitely have to come back again. And I want to try to get Hansi in here for the next one too, man. So we can finish up this talk, man. And then we can even get to a point where, where we giving out these solutions, man, on how we can even make it work, bro, because it's possible. It
is possible, before.
And people are doing it now. People are doing it right now. So it's definitely possible, man. But it's dope, man. But
next time, let's put it on the women next time. All right, we're gonna talk about the roles of women. Okay,
we gotta ask women.
We talked about men this time. Now, ladies, we're gonna throw some smoke in your area, right? But
it's tax season, man. It's tax season, so we all know what we gotta do. We gotta hit up Paul Rene, taxmoney123.com, because we gotta get them taxes done right, man. We got to get them taxes done right. And any production, audio, video needs, hit me up, tattoomeproductions.com. And we're live every Tuesday night, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Go to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the YouTube channel, look in the bio if you want to join the conversations while we are live. We have the Zoom link there, meeting and ID password, and you guys can get in on the conversation, man. Paul, what you got to say?
Did you let them know if they want any type of video work or podcast done to hit you up, Daniel, with Daniel Academy?
Yeah.
That's the maestro right there.
Yeah.
He's the glue to everything. So make sure you hit him up too. But yes, it is I, the tax guy, getting you the money you deserve.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, man. We will see y'all next week, Tuesday, right here, same time, same place. Y'all have a good week, man. And we'll see y'all. Deuces.
All right.
Man.